is known by Android? So Android is the most popular term from the last couple of years, right? So can I know what is meant by Android? So tell me what are the answer you know. Android is what? Basically, I'll get this answer from the majority of the people. Android is a mobile operating system. Android is what? Android is a mobile operating system. Basically, I will get this answer from the majority of the people. It's a mobile operating system. But to say frankly, Android is not an operating system. I mean, it's not only an operating system. Okay. So first, I'll try to explain what exactly Android. Okay. What is the correct definition for the Android? Okay. So in my view, the definition for this Android is nothing but Android is a mobile platform. Android is what? Android is a mobile platform. This mobile platform consists. Android is a mobile platform consists operating system, middleware, and key applications. Android is a mobile platform consists operating system, middleware, and key applications. This is the definition of Android. Android is a mobile platform consists operating system, middleware, and key applications. This is the definition of Android. Okay, so first I'll try to justify this definition. I mean, what is mobile? What is operating system? Okay, so what is middleware and what are the key applications? So first I'll try to justify my answer. Okay, what is this? Android. Okay, so if you take any electronic device in the market, if you take a computer or if you take any electronic device, basically the device contains two components. If you take any electronic device, if you take a computer or if you take a TV, if you take any electronic device, basically the device contains two components now. The two components are nothing but one is the software component and second thing is the hardware component. Software component and hardware component. These are the two components. For example, if you write, my requirement is I'm writing some Java code. I'm writing a Java code which is used to print some data in a printer. We are writing the software code we are writing by using the Java programming language. This Java code directly will not communicate with the hardware components, meaning your Java code directly cannot communicate with the printer component directly. So basically the abstraction between these two components, the abstraction between the software component and the hardware component is nothing but what? Operating system is abstraction between the software component and the hardware component. Operating system is what? Operating system is abstraction between the software component and the hardware component. So if you take any electronic device, so basically we required what? To provide a communication between software and hardware component, so we required an operating system. Okay, so now here operating system is abstraction between the software component as well as what? Hardware component. Now in Android, what is the operating system we use? Or before going to discuss that, why we need an operating system This is the question. Why we are installing this Windows, Mac, different operating systems we are using, right? What is the purpose of installing the operating system?
To act as middleware between hardware and software.
Yeah. Okay, good. So basically, I'll tell you. For example, if you want to store some data, if you want to store in your computer, there is a component called hard disk component, right? If you want to store some data, there is a hardware component called hard disk. But are you directly interacting with the hard disk? Hard disk store this data, or I want to get the data from you from. So directly we are not interacting with the hard disk, right? Even we cannot communicate also directly with the hard disk. So with whom we are communicating? We are communicating to the operating system. We are communicating that operating system is going to communicate with what? With the hard disk it is communicating. So basically it's an abstraction between the software component, the hardware components and the software components. So one of the responsibility of operating system, why we need this operating system, because one of the responsibility of operating system is nothing but memory management. So memory management is one of the responsibility of operating system. So to manage the memory, so we required what an operating system is required. So this is one responsibility, memory management. Next, resource management. See, at a time we can perform multiple operations, we can perform at a time. The second responsibility is what? Resource management. At a time we can perform multiple operations, we can perform at a time. See, I open paint, I'm performing some operations on paint, I'm performing, as well as the backend Xcode is open, as well as emulator is open. Next, GoToMeet is running parallelly. So at a time, multiple operations we can perform at a time. Multiple operations we can perform what? At a time, because of this resource management in operating system. Meaning the operating system is going to allocate some resources. Some resources for typing a text document, some resources for paint, some resources for GoToMeeting, some resources for some XYZ. Okay, so because of this operating system only, because of this operating system resource management, at a time we can perform multiple operations, we can perform at a time. Okay, next, the next responsibility of operating system is memory management, resource management, driver management is another responsibility. Driver management. So driver management means, for example, if we take the latest operating systems, separately we don't need to install any audio drivers. By default from Windows 2007 onwards, by default with the operating system itself, you will get some audio drivers. Audio drivers will get explicitly, you need to download any drivers. And for example, directly you'll connect keyboard, you'll connect. For example, printer is one hardware component, as well as keyboard is also one hardware component. But directly you can connect the keyboard, you can connect, and directly you can start working with the keyboard. But the same thing you cannot do with the printer. Printer you can connect, but directly you cannot start working with your printer. If you want to work with the printer, additionally you have to install the drivers you have to install for that particular printer. Correct or not? So here, this driver management, driver management will, by default, operating system driver management will provide some built-in drivers. So for example, for keyboard, for mouse, for the pen drive. So by default with the operating system itself, you'll get some drivers you'll get. Okay. Another responsibility of operating system is nothing but power management is another responsibility. Power management is another responsibility of operating system. Best example in my system, it is showing the power status here. See here, it's showing the power status. So 88% of the power is remaining, in 22% is completed. Meaning who is giving this information to you? Operating system is giving that information. Okay, because one of the responsibility of operating system is nothing but what? Power management is one of the responsibility of operating system. So if we take Android mobile, even the Android mobile is also contains this software component as well as hardware component. So definitely we need an operating system. Definitely we need an operating system in the Android devices. The operating system in Android devices is nothing but Linux is the operating system in Android devices. What is the operating system in Android devices? Linux is the operating system in Android devices. Okay. But my question is here, if you install the Linux operating system, if you install in your computer, how much of space it will take? In computer, it will take 4 GB of space it will take in your computer to install the Linux operating system. Approximately, minimum it will take 3 to 4 GB of space it will take to install the Linux operating system. But here, I'm telling here in Android we are using the Linux operating system we are using. Was Linux, to install the Linux operating system, we need 4 GB of space required. But even in the market, there are few Android devices which is having the storage capacity is 1 GB. Even in the 1 GB storage devices also, this Android platform is available. So how it's possible? In case of your computer, required 4 GB of space is required. But in case of the Android in the market, there are few devices which is having the storage capacity is 512 MB, 1 GB. 1 GB storage device also available. Even in that device also, Android platform is running. Even the storage capacity is 1 GB. After installing the operating system, still you will get 300 to 400 MB of space. Still, it's available in your device. 1 GB storage, 1 GB storage devices. The reason is nothing but here. Okay, the Linux operating system will take 3 to 4 GB of space. It will take okay, fine. But in mobile, Linux is mainly designed for the computer. It's not for the mobile phone. Mainly, it is designed for the computer. It's not for the mobile phone. And we don't require all the Linux functionalities we don't require in the mobile phone. For example, by default, the Linux operating system is providing some drivers for printer. We don't require it because the user will not connect a printer to your mobile. Okay, and here lot of responsibilities are not required in case of mobile. We require the few operations we required from the Linux. Okay, that's why we don't require the entire Linux. We require the few operations we required from the Linux operating system. So the technical term here, there is a term called kernel. There is a term called what? Kernel. Kernel means a part of operating system. Kernel means what? A part of operating system is called as what? Kernel. A part of operating system is called as what? Kernel. So here Android is working on Linux kernel, meaning boss, we don't require the entire Linux, we don't require. We need few operations we require from the Linux operating system. That's why we termed as what? Linux kernel. So in few places I found this answer, Android is a Linux based operating system. Android is a Linux based operating system. Even that is also not correct. Okay, but internally in Android, so Android is working on what? Linux kernel. Okay, this is the first component. Next, we'll discuss the software component. For developing the Android applications, for building a software or for building an application, basically we require a programming language. If you want to build any application or a software, we require what? A programming language is required. So now here, if you want to develop Android applications, so what is the programming language is required? If you want to develop Android applications, let's see what are the programming languages are required. So what are the programming languages we use for developing the Android applications?
Go Java, XML.
Programming languages. XML is not a programming language.
Yeah, Go Java and HTML and
C++, Java, and .NET. Okay, so these are the three programming languages are available for developing the applications. These are the three programming languages. You can use C++, Java, or .NET. You can use any one of these three programming languages you can use for developing the applications. Okay, so if you are developing the applications using Java programming language, let's see, just give me a second. Android applications. So these are the three programming languages, possible programming languages. So here, officially Android is giving the support for C++, and Java. Officially Android is giving the support for what? C++ and Java. Android is giving the support for these two programming languages. Android is giving the support. Android is not giving any support for developing the applications using what? .NET. So we'll discuss how to build applications using .NET. But officially Android is giving the support for, so these two programming languages Android is giving the support, C++ and Java. So if you want to develop the applications using C and C++, Android is providing some supporting tools and libraries as NDK. NDK is termed as Native Development Kit. NDK is termed as what? Native Development Kit. And if you are developing the applications using Java programming language, we require some supporting tools and libraries. Android is providing the supporting tools and libraries as SDK. Okay, if you are developing the applications using C and C++, it is providing, Android is providing some supporting tools and libraries as NDK, SDK for Java, native development kit, and software development kit. Okay, out of these two things, C, C++, and Java, majority of the people prefer to write the code using Java only, because we know that Java is a object oriented programming, and it's easy to write the code because we don't have a stupid concept like pointers. Okay, and we are having a ready-made library support like IO package and util package. So a lot of library support is also there in case of Java programming language, and it's having its own features like scalability, platform independent, and all. So because of this, majority of the people in the market, because even though Android is giving the support for these two things, majority of the people is prefer to write the code using what? Java programming language. Majority of the people are prefer to write the code using Java programming language. Okay, that's why initially Android is giving the support for these two things, C, C++, and Java. Now Android is not giving the support for C, C++, because 99% of the 9 people are prefer to write the code using Java only. Unnecessarily, they are spending some time for building all the components and all by using C and C++. That's why initially Android is giving the support for C, C++, but now officially Android is giving the support only for what? Only for Java. It is giving the support. Okay. Okay, we discussed C and Java. We discussed. What about the .NET? Officially, Android is not providing any support for developing the applications using .NET framework. Officially, Android is not providing any support for developing the applications using what? .NET. There is a third-party framework called Mono Android. It's not officially from Android. There is a third-party framework called Mono Android. Is a third-party framework, and recently they released one more framework called Xamarin. So Mono Android or Xamarin. So by using this Mono Android or Xamarin, the same framework. Initially it is termed as Mono Android. Recently they renamed to Xamarin. Okay. By using this Mono Android or Xamarin framework, we can develop the applications using .NET programming language. You can develop the applications, but there are a few limitations are there, drawbacks are there. One is, the first thing is, see, it's not officially from Android. It's a third party framework. It is one third party company. It's not officially from Android. The first thing is, if you want to use this Mono Android or Xamarin, first thing is, it is commercial. We have to pay the money. We have to pay to use this one. First thing is what? It's a commercial. Is the first disadvantage. Next, second thing is nothing but trust. See, with a huge amount of investment, a 5 crores of investment, I'm developing one project. I'm developing one project. So after developing the project, we are developing the project by using this third-party framework we are using. See, I have some secure data. For example, I'm developing a application for a healthcare client. There is some secure data is there. So how can we provide that secure data? How can we give to a third party company framework? Okay, so trust. Third thing is nothing but support. Okay, boss, you started. For example, you are a very good .NET programmer. You decided to use this Mono Android Xamarin by purchasing the software. You started working with this. 50% of the project is completed. Then after that, you got a requirement. And you don't know how to do that one. So definitely we had to take the support of whom? Definitely we had to take a support of this Mono Android people, or the people who are aware of this Mono Android. That people support you had to take. Tell me how many people are aware of this Mono Android framework in the market, in the world? Hardly can count with fingers. You can count how many people are aware of this Mono Android. So again, you had to go and you had to ask to Xamarin people or Mono Android people, boss, this is my problem. At that time, they'll tell you, boss, we'll provide you the support for this, but it's a paid support. Meaning, even for support, also you had to pay the money you had to pay. Okay, support is most important before going to start any project. And the last thing is nothing but updates. We know that how fastly Android is growing day by day. We are getting updates, we are getting, for example, 5.0, 6.0. Now the latest one is Android N. How fastly we are getting the updates, right? So the latest features, whatever the features are available in the latest Android versions, immediately you will not get those features in this third party framework, because they built a framework on top of Android SDK. They built a framework on top of what? Android SDK. So the latest features of Android you will not get in this mono Android framework. Okay, because of all these disadvantages, the people will never prefer to use this mono Android or Xamarin kind of frameworks, because later you have to face a lot of issues we have to face. Now the best option for developing the Android applications is what? Java is the best option for developing the Android applications. It's no need to pay any money. It's a free of cost. You can trust. And third thing is support. There are n number of people are there. I mean, the Android forums are there. If you have any requirement, the people will help you. Okay. And if you Android is releasing any updates, means first you will get in the Java SDK you will get. Okay. So this is about the software component. We'll develop the Android applications by using Java programming language. But Java is not only the option. There are other things also there. You can develop by using C, C++, and .NET also. Next, if you are developing the applications using Java programming language, definitely we have to import some Java libraries. We have to import. If you are developing the applications using Java programming language, we have to import what? Java libraries we have to import. If you are developing the applications using Java programming language, so we have to import Java libraries we have to import. We know that, for example, if you are performing any IO operations, if you are performing any IO operations, we require this java.io package we required. If you are performing any network operations, if you are performing java.io.star, java.net.star, okay, java.util.star, like if you are performing any, if you are using the Java libraries, if you are writing the code using Java programming language, definitely we require the Java libraries we required. Next, everything is not possible with the Java programming language. I mean, why use the term? Because everything is not possible with what? With the Java programming language. Why I'm telling this statement? Because, for example, let's take operating system. By using which programming language the operating system is developed? I mean, your Windows, Linux, and all these operating systems. By using which programming language these operating systems are developed? I heard in the market these operating systems are developed by using C and C++. Reason is nothing but why they develop the operating system in C and C++, why not in Java or .NET? Because operating system, what is the main responsibility of operating system? Interacting with the hardware components. That is the responsibility of operating system. But if you want to interact with the hardware components, that is not possible with Java programming language. From your Java code, directly you cannot communicate with the hardware components, you cannot communicate from your Java code. That's why even though if you are writing the code using Java programming language, sometimes your Java code will get a requirement of communicating with the hardware components. But that hardware communication is not possible with what? Java programming language. So that's why the Java code is going to take a support of native libraries. The Java code is going to take a support of what? Native libraries. That native libraries is called as, we call as C and C++. Sometimes you'll get a requirement of what? Communicating with the hardware components from your Java code. But this communication is not possible by using your Java programming language. So that's why the Java code is going to take a support of what? Native libraries. Native libraries means which are written in C and C++. I mean, it's a non-Java code. It's a non-Java code. Okay. So interacting with the hardware components is not possible with Java programming language. So that's why Your Java code is going to take a support of C and C++ libraries support for communicating with what? For communicating with the hardware components. For communicating with the hardware components, your Java code is going to take a support of a non-Java code, or means C or C++ library support it will take. Okay. So one of the best example for this native libraries is nothing but OpenGL is one native library. One of the best example for this native libraries is nothing but OpenGL is a native library for displaying the graphics and animations in Android. In Android, if you want to display any graphics, if you want to display in Android, if you want to display any graphics, if you want to display in Android, so we require this native library we required called OpenGLES, Open Graphic Library. It's not a Java library, it's a C++ library for displaying the graphics. Whenever you have a requirement of displaying the graphics, your Java code is going to take a support of this OpenGLES for communicating with the hardware components. Okay, this is the libraries part, Java libraries and native libraries. The next important component here, the next important component in the architecture is nothing but application framework. Application framework is another major component in the architecture. Application framework. So what the application framework will do is, application framework provides infrastructures for the application developer. Application framework provides what? Infrastructures for application developer. Meaning how it is providing the infrastructures is with the help of ready-made libraries. Application framework is providing what? Infrastructures for the application developer. How it is providing the infrastructures is with the help of ready-made libraries. For example, your requirement is you want to work with Wi-Fi. You want to work with what? Wi-Fi. So you don't need to write the huge amount of logic you don't need to write for working with Wi-Fi, because there is a ready-made library in Android. Suppose if your requirement is communicating with Wi-Fi, use a class called Wi-Fi manager. So get the Wi-Fi devices, connect to a particular Wi-Fi network, what is the signal strength, what is the frequency. So all this information you can get, meaning you don't need to write the lot of logic, or low-level logic is not required, because it's a ready-made library in Android. Just use that ready-made library in your application. So what the application framework will do? Application framework provides what? Infrastructures for the application developer. Application framework provides infrastructures Application framework provides what? Infrastructures for the application developer with the help of ready-made libraries. With the help of what? Ready-made libraries. Application framework provides infrastructures for the application developer with the help of ready-made libraries. Everything is ready-made library was. For example, if you want to work with Wi-Fi manager, Bluetooth manager, sensor manager, surface manager. Okay, next, like everything is ready-made libraries. As a developer, you have to know how to use that ready-made library in your application. That is your responsibility. I'll repeat once again. Everything is a ready-made library. Okay, as a developer, you'll get a requirement of you have to know how to use that ready-made library in your application. Okay, that is your responsibility. Okay, because of this application framework, one advantage in the Android development is nothing but writing the code is simple compared to other programming languages. How it is simple, how it is easier, because this application framework, because you need to write the huge amount of logic you need to require. You need to write some complex logic also you need to require, because someone is already taken care of that one. They are giving us ready-made libraries. As a developer, just you have to know how to use those ready-made libraries in your application. Okay, and the next important component in this Android is nothing but DVM. The next important component is what? DVM. So DVM is termed as Dalvik virtual machine. The next important component is what? DVM. So this DVM is termed as what? Dalvik virtual machine. This DVM is termed as Dalvik virtual machine. Okay, so meaning, I hope you are aware of this JVM. I hope you are aware of what? JVM. So what is meant by JVM? JVM is termed as Java Virtual Machine. Okay, I'll tell you the flow. I'll tell you. Basically, we'll write the .java file. We'll write, right? We'll write the .java file. We'll write. Next, what we'll do? We'll submit this Java code. We'll submit to JDK. I mean, one of the tool in JDK is nothing but Java C is one of the tool in JDK. We'll write the code in Java. We'll write the code. Next, we'll submit this Java code to JDK. We'll submit. Okay. So one of the tool in JDK is nothing but what? Java C is one of the tool in JDK. Java C is one of the tool in JDK. But JDK is going to compile your Java code. JDK is going to compile your Java code. It is going to produce a dot class file. It will produce. It will produce what? Dot class file. We termed as Java bytecode. We termed as what? Java bytecode. To execute this Java bytecode, I mean dot class file, we require JVM is required. Okay, basically this is a flow. I mean, to convert the Java bytecode into machine understandable format, we require the JVM is required. This is a flow, right? In this way, your Java file will execute. Here also we are writing the code using Java programming language only we are using. Here also we are writing the code using what? Java only we are using. Next we'll submit the Java code to JDK. Will submit in Java compiler. We'll submit the Java code to JDK. Will compile. JDK is going to compile your Java code and it is going to produce what? It will produce a dot class file. It will produce the same process up to this. Up to this is what? The same process. Next, this Java bytecode we will not submit to JVM. This JVM is replaced with what? With a DVM. We'll submit the dot class file. Will submit to what? To DVM. Will submit. So here my question is, why DVM? Why not JVM? Because we are writing the code here also we are writing the code using Java only, right? Here also we are writing the code using Java. Even in case of your computer also we'll write the code using Java, right? So why DVM? Why not JVM? Reason is nothing but JVM is specially designed for the computers which will work on the heavy power, memory and the RAM capacity. But if you take mobile is not having that much power capacity, memory capacity and the RAM capacity. Correct or not? Mobile is not having what? That much power, memory and RAM. Best example was, if you take your computer, how much power computer will take as input? Around 220 volts of power it will take as input. But if you take mobile, hardly 12 volts or 12 volts maybe it will take as input. Okay, so that's why they customize the JVM. I mean, DVM means I'm not telling it's completely a new one. They customized the JVM. I mean, they modified the JVM to work on the low power, low memory and the low RAM. That customized JVM is nothing but what? DVM. Okay, so here DVM also will take Java bytecode only as input, but DVM will not execute the Java bytecode. It will not execute directly. First, what DVM will do is DVM will convert this Java bytecode into its own understandable format. DVM directly will not execute the Java bytecode. It will not execute directly. First, it is going to convert into its own bytecode format called .dex. First, DVM will convert into its own bytecode format called what? .dex. It will convert. DVM will convert into its own bytecode format called .dex. Then it will execute the .dex file. It will execute. First, DVM will convert into its own bytecode format called .dex. Then it will execute the .dex file. It will execute. Okay. For example, in case of your JVM, in your project, imagine there are 1,000 classes are there. what JVM will do is JVM will execute all the 1000 classes independently. Independently, it is going to execute all the 1000 classes. But here it's not like that. What DVM will do is DVM will convert all the dot class files into a single file called 1d.dx. Meaning you cannot find the multiple .dx files you cannot find for your project. For your entire project, only one .dxe file only. Okay, so it will convert into .dx file, then it will execute the .dx file. It will execute. Okay, this is a component. DVM also will take what Java bytecode will take as input, but first directly it will not execute the Java bytecode. It will not execute directly. First, it will convert into what its own bytecode format called .dx. So I'll draw here. So which will take the input as what dot class file. It will take the input of dot class file. It will take as input, and directly it will not execute the dot class file. It will not execute directly. First, it will convert into its own bytecode format called .dx file. It will convert. First, it will convert into what its own bytecode format called .dx. Convert into its own bytecode format called .dx. Then it will execute the .dx file. It will execute. Then it will execute the .dx file. It will execute. Okay. So this is the architecture of Android. This whole diagram is nothing. Shows the architecture of what Android. Now, if you see here, if you see in this architecture, just give me a minute. I'll remove all these unnecessary things. Yeah. So this is the architecture of Android. This whole diagram will shows the architecture of what Android. Now, in this architecture, if you see here, if you recall what is the definition of Android, what is the definition of Android again? Android is a mobile platform, consists operating system, middleware, and key applications. This is the definition of Android. Consists of what? Operating system, middleware, and key applications. This is the definition of Android. You see here in this architecture, what is operating system in Android devices? Linux kernel is the operating system in Android devices. Linux kernel is the operating system in Android devices. Okay. Next, the application framework and libraries part and your DVM is called as a middleware. Application framework, libraries part, DVM is called as what? It's a middleware. Application framework, libraries part, and DVM is called as what? It's a middleware. And by default with Android, you will get some built-in apps. You will get by default with Android, you'll get what? Some built-in apps you'll get by default with Android. Okay, this is the definition and architecture of Android. If someone will ask what is Android means, so don't give a stupid answer like it's operating system. Okay, I mean, especially if you are a student, if you are looking for a job, if anyone asks Android means, draw this complete architecture so they'll get some time to explain for you. Okay, so draw this complete architecture and define the definition with the help of Android architecture. This is the Android architecture, and from this architecture, this is called as operating system, this is called as a middleware, and these are the apps. This is the definition and architecture of Android. So do you have any queries in this? And now the definition of Android is, I'm removing this mobile, I'm removing in the definition of Android. I removed that Android is a mobile platform because earlier when the Android is launched, that is only specific to mobile devices. It is only specific to what? Mobile devices. But now if you take in the market, Android is available in the mobile devices, tablets, wearable devices. Okay. Next, automobiles. Another great thing is in automobiles. So in different platforms, Android is available. One is in mobiles, tablets, wearable devices, desktops, automobiles. Okay. So in six platforms, Android is available. Okay, that's why I removed that mobile. I removed. Now Android is a platform consists of operating system, middleware, and key applications. This is the definition and architecture of Android. So let me know if you have any queries.